What's up, farmers? I want to give a big shout out to all the OG and new subscribers. Thank you very much. I feel really blessed and encouraged to continue producing these videos. I know they're not the most entertaining or the most highest quality, but knowing you guys are out there subscribing gives me the encouragement to continue producing these and trying to allow others to learn along with me on doing their own drag car build. Hopefully it encourages new people to turn their dreams into a goal and start working towards the end goal. So we got some stuff to go over. I know I've been gone for a bit, but it doesn't mean I haven't been working. I got the cage completely tied into the car. You know, there's still a few bars left to install, but I want to finish those up when I have a better idea of the seat positioning, because there are, if you look in the books, the rule books, there are as far as the seat back bar goes, there's a rule that it has to be within 4 inches of your shoulder height. So I want to make sure that that is dialed in when the seat goes in. I do have the upper portion of the cage painted, and that's in. See, for all the subframe stuff's all tied in. All the kickers are in, welded. I mean, the cage isn't going anywhere right now. Rear bars are welded in, and that leads me to the next part I want to tackle is the rear subframe repairs, because if you remember from earlier videos, the driver's side rear subframe was rotted, and I really didn't feel like trusting this to hold the parachute mount. It's basically almost non-existent. So integrity wise, I want to make sure it's a good solid rear end or rear portion of the car, so that any tugging from the parachute, I know they don't hit real hard on the cars, and you can get different sizes to hit harder or not, but I don't want to have any issues. So today that's mainly what we're going to go over, and grab a big boy pop or little boy pop, whichever you desire, and stick around. Alright, first off, I just want to go over the cage portion of things. I didn't really video anything when I was doing all this stuff, because number one, you guys got to see in earlier videos how I was positioning everything, and really it didn't change. So if you remember, I basically had the kickers tacked in along with the main hoop and the A-pillar bars tacked to the front kicker, or the respective kickers. I cut the tacks and let everything drop, so that way I could do my 100% welds on the upper portion, and then painted the upper portion as well. Well, this was hanging low through the floorboards. I then raised it up, and it sat on the rear bars, and then I had a piece of 2x4 from the dash bar to the tunnel, holding it up a little higher than the kickers. Put the kickers back in position, tacked the rear kickers back in, set the main hoop down on it, made sure everything was positioned right, got my front kickers all set underneath the main or the A-pillar bars. Basically just making sure everything's back in position where I had it, and then started welding everything back up. Everything welded really nice. The biggest issue was getting the weld down into here. I mean, you can see I can fit a finger in there, and that's about it. And same goes for where the A-pillar bars hit the kickers. I actually had to bend my tungsten, probably the last quarter to 3/8 of the tungsten. I had to bend that in order to direct my arc towards the fillet weld of that. But other than that, I mean, it took some time. Other than that, it went pretty smooth. I just happened to be, well, I planned to go, I didn't happen to be there, but I planned to go to the NMRA, NMCA Super Bowl race in Joliet, and I got to meet a ton of nice racers, talked to a bunch of the guys in the Coyote stock class, and a number of them had the Team Z cages. So I checked them out, make sure mine wasn't a Frankenstein compared to theirs, and everything looked very similar. So even to the point where I saw one of the guys, his carpet where his rear kickers and main hoop were. I asked if I could take a look inside and see and look and make sure mine wasn't, drastically different than anybody else's. So he showed me the same spot on his car, and it was the same thing, fit a finger in there, and that was it. So I'm glad I didn't make it any different than what it was mainly designed to be. But yes, I still have to add the seat back bar, and then the D-bars that go from the main hoop down to the subframe connector. So those got to go in yet. Still have to do the mini tub support bars. So that's why the lower portion of the cage and the rear portion aren't painted yet. But then to do the mini tub bars, I have to repair the rear subframe. And as you can see, I've cut the rear subframe, I think it was 10 inches back, because that's kind of where it seemed to be the straight section, and cut that off. I got my rear subframe pieces laying here. You can see the condition of the driver's side. It looks like Swiss cheese. The passenger side's still pretty solid. There's no rot through, but it's heavily rusted, and you can see some oxidizing between the pinch welds, and I didn't want to have them be obviously different, so I want to make sure everything was consistent. So I went ahead and cut those, and now I'm just fitting up some pieces. I have I got some 2-inch by 3-inch rectangular structural tubing from a buddy of mine. He had sitting around. I did look around for 2-inch by 3.5 because that's how tall the subframe is, but I wasn't able to find any. Found 1.5 by 3.5, but no 2-inch by 3.5, so had to go with that. And I plan to weld it to the original subframe, but I'm also going to plate on the outside, and obviously I'll have to do it on the bottom to make it look better and seal it off. But you can see got some new pieces here. This is the Team Z SN95 parachute mount. This is a real sweet piece. I'm really impressed with it. So I was using that because I forgot to measure basically the center line of the subframes before I cut them. I got a little anxious and started cutting. So I'm trying to use that to make sure everything aligned and then center up, and so that way everything fits together nice as I weld it in. Let's see what else. Oh, I got some other Team Z pieces too. I got a new radiator support because the one that's on the car it's not in horrible shape, but you know, might as well save some weight if I can, especially in the front. Which leads me to the Team Z bumper support. So super nice pieces, and I'll tell you what, it pays to, instead of just going right to the internet and ordering a piece, it pays to get in contact with the vendor that you're going to use and ask if they have dent and dings, because luckily they had a dent and ding for the bumper support, and I saved 20 bucks. It's not much, but you know, that's darn near the entire shipping cost for the packages. So and I don't even see a dent and ding. There's a little spot right there. I don't know if you can even see it, but I mean, number one, I can't even tell. Number two, it goes underneath the bumper support. It goes underneath the bumper cover, so no one will ever know, except you guys. But I mean, shoot, I wish I would have used that in some other instances. And it's rare to find. I've seen it on a few websites where they have a dent and ding section or a clearance section or whatever. So it pays to check that stuff out. Talk to your vendors first, you know. It never hurts. Also, I got some crap, can't think of the name of the company, but Weld Metals Online. I got some of their kits just to play around, but I haven't had time to do much playing around. Here is the Team Z anti-roll bar kit. This is super nice piece that I'm really pleased with. Super solid, I mean super beefy. Comes with your roll bar tube, which is 1.25 inches with 1/4 inch wall chromoly. The billet steel arms. This is their universal kit, and you actually weld it together yourself. But it comes with all the hardware. I know it sounds like a plug for Team Z, but you know, I have many different vendors pieces on here, and I plan to use many different vendors pieces because I look for what I think is the best and do my research. And as far as anti-roll bar kits and some of the other pieces I bought, you know, I think the Team Z pieces are top-notch stuff. The anti-roll bar comes with the mountable, the removable mounts, instead of welding into your subframe and then it's basically fixed unless you cut it out. This one I can mount, and I'm thinking I want to mount it to the rear end because depending on your ride height setting, which depends on how the chassis is set up and stuff, but you could run into an issue where your anti-roll bar ends up hitting into the trunk pan or whatever's back there, you know, your interior floorboard or whatever you want to call that, sheet metal. And it just makes it easier to adjust, I think, being on behind the rear end and in front of the rear end. But we'll see. I mean, I gotta get to that point yet. I know what rear end I want, and I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to order the parts and pieces. Basically, I want to have my wheels and tires so I can set them in position, measure flange to flange, so I know where the person who makes the rear end is going to have to, make it to length, so everything fits nice. Here I have a kit from Tin Soldiers. This is their coilover mount kit. When it comes to coilover mounts, there's really not much to it. Their kit was cheaper, and it's a weld together kit, so you can position it where you want. I was a little bit worried about the fixed kits that you can buy because I don't have the rear end yet, and I want to be able to move it to where it needs to be instead of where the fixed kit puts it. So if that makes sense, I hope. So yeah, I got tons of parts and pieces, and I just gotta get them installed. I still have Marilette Racing's upper torque box replacement on my bench. Still have Team Z lower torque box replacements on my bench. So I gotta get at it. I've been working on it, but slacking at the same time. So, but yeah. So I'm gonna do some work on this, and basically I'm at the point where I'm ready to tack in my pieces. So I'm gonna tack it in, get everything positioned right where I want it, and then make sure this parachute is sitting this way correct, and then also make sure this side's not shorter in than that side, so it's sticking like this, and all that good stuff. Just a lot of measuring, checking, tacking, measuring, moving, tacking, stuff like that. So nothing that's real film worthy, I don't think, but as I'm working on it, I will fire up the camera and let you know if I've come up with any tricks and tips. So yeah, see you in a bit. All right, so I'm back. It's the next day, and I did get a good amount done last night. You can see here I got my 2x3 box or rectangular tubing welded up to the stubs left of the original subframe. Because I'm going to plate the sides and the bottom, I had to grind my welds, thank goodness, because they looked a lot like McFarland Fabrications welds. So it's hard to do, but if you can, wherever there's rust inside here, you want to clean it up, just because the backside of that weld, you can try welding colder too, but I wanted to make sure I had good penetration between the two. I didn't want to have a weak weld there, even though I'm plating it, but that rust, once it gets into once the weld pool gets to it, it just pops. And it's tough because the outsides of that subframe are actually 2 layers. And there's usually, at least on this car, there was a lot of rust that plated out in between the layers. And if because you're right on the edge of that, even though I wire wheeled and wire brushed that, try to get as much as I could out of it, it still just ends up popping and just makes a big mess. So you just got to basically lay it in there, and at least then it's together. I can come back with some plates on the sides and the bottom, and you can see here I got a nice little leg up underneath the parachute mount. What I found was that when I cut the subframe away, it's this back trunk kind of sagged a little bit. I don't know exactly how much, so I just kind of used the parachute and pulled up on it, the parachute mount pulled up on it until I felt, you know, like it was not sagging anymore, and then just use the leg, this wooden leg here, to hold it up in that position so I can get everything welded, mounted in. You know, I got my parachute centered up. I don't know if you can see it real well here, but I got a line here that I just basically measured the center from the bumper cover mounting holes and found center, and that looks to be pretty close. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. I think it's leaning a little bit that way, so I might have to massage a couple of the mounting holes to get it back over a little bit. But other than that, everything's turned out good. So what I'm going to work on now is plating, making some plates and some bottom, I don't know what you call it, close off plates, because you can see there's about a 1/2 inch difference between this box tubing and this. So I'm going to make a plate that'll come through here, bend down, and underneath, and then we'll just plate against that too, and it should be plenty solid. Plus I still have that mini tube cross member, the mini tube bar cross member that'll go from this side to that side back there, and then the mini bar tubes actually connect to the rear cage bars down to this cross member. So that should make everything nice and solid, and shouldn't be going anywhere. So time to get to work. All right, so guys, as far as I'm gonna get tonight, it's about time for bed. But you can see I have the bottom side piece welded in there. Turned out pretty good. I just used a piece of cardboard on the bottom side, traced it out to get some of that curvature in, and then trimmed my piece out of some 1/8 inch hot rolled, and used the bench with some clamps to bend it. And let's see if you can see better from the bottom here. Yeah, there you can see the full thing there. You know, it's probably 3 inches, roughly 3 inches on each side, and the other side is still hot, so I'm not gonna get near it, but turned out nice. Next up will just be plating the side and covering that little transition bend, welding that all up. I took out my little kicker board for the holding the back end up, and it's definitely not as flimsy as it was without the subframe stuff there, so that's good. Yeah, so tomorrow get back on it and start plating up the sides. All right, it's a new day, and I started doing some work. I went ahead and made some plates that go on the sides of the subframe where the joint is with the new pieces of subframe, and they look like this here. You can see it's got the transition from the 3.5 on the OEM to the 3 inch, and then I put some holes here. One is because there's a little bit of curvature there, it will help me to when I clamp it, I can tack it right there. That'll hold it, and I can go around the edges, and that way I know that this piece is all the way against the subframe material. You can see here I have one already tacked in, and I have tacks in the holes. I got one on the side over there, but it's nice. Oops, sorry, I have to turn it around. It's nice and solid against the material, so that'll help keep it from bending as well, because they're becoming more one piece the more welds you have in it. So that's about it for that little segment. So I'm gonna get busting these out and attached, and then when that's done, the subframe repair will be done. So then it's on to the mini tub bars. So see you in a bit. All right, it's another day, and I just finished up all the welding on these side plates. So the inside's done, the outside's done. This this repair, it better not be going anywhere, and if it does, we all know whose fault it is. So, but I'll show you again. There's inside plates there, and on this side, same thing. Hopefully it's not bleached out. And I don't know that it'd be a good view, but it's kind of tight in this little fender well. A couple of tips and I figured out was using a car ramp makes a nice welding chair. You know, it gives you something to lean against and get closer, but not be completely arm's length away. And that worked good. The other thing is, I wish I would have done this repair prior to starting or actually completing the mini tubs. I wish I would have cut the fender wells out and then did this repair, because when you're trying to weld up in there, you gotta get all scrunched up, and it's not very comfortable. It's hard to see, but yeah. So I know it's been a long video. If you stuck this long, thank you, appreciate it. And I'm gonna get to work on the rear mini tub bars, so that'll be in the next video, so keep your eyes out for that one coming out. Take it easy, guys. Turn that dream into a goal and crush it.